The Jimmy Butler era is off and running. It is beautiful basketball. It's like a whole new NBA season. Sophia Jones is joining me tonight. It's her first time presenting to the audience her thoughts on the Jimmy Butler experience. I love it. We'll find out how Sophia feels. The Golden State Warriors winners tonight in Milwaukee. We'll break it all down next. I will have a new open that's going to have you in it, Sophia, as well. That is going to also feature Jimmy Butler. I cannot finish it in time for tonight's show, but wanted to tease that as you watch what will be likely the last time you see this open. Here we go. It's the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Jimmy fucking yeah. Woo-hoo! Welcome to the Golden Days. I'm one of your two hosts for the evening, Cyrus Saatsaz. You can follow Sophia Jones on Twitter at Sophia Jones _2. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild, on Twitter at Surf Journalist, the program on those platforms at Golden Days Pod. Before we get into it, to recap, a game, a win, that was just feel good pretty much from beginning to end. Dame Lillard did his best, but without Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Milwaukee Bucks tried their best. I did not realize how good a three-point shooter, Taurean Prince was until tonight. That dude could not miss. The Warriors then thankfully took care of that and made life too difficult for Dame Lillard in a 125-111 victory. First and foremost, though, some love to our sponsors once again. And first up is Underdog Fantasy, which is legal in the state of California. It's legal in over 30 states. The premise is super easy. I'm ready to play again, so stay tuned for me to post my picks now that the trade deadline madness has settled down a little bit. Not only, if you use the promo code GSW, will you get a free pick with Underdog Fantasy, but you could be eligible for up to $1,000 in bonus money just for signing up. Check it out, Underdog Fantasy. Today's episode is brought to you by the good doctor himself, Dr. Tom Rosanelli. Gentlemen, if the hair is thinning, if you're losing it, don't hesitate. Give Dr. Tom Rosanelli a call. He's all about making you look good. He's all about making you feel good. He uses the latest state-of-the-art technological advancements in hair restoration care, including FUE technology, standing for follicular unit excision, and FUS technology, which is follicular unit strip procedure, a procedure that most newer and younger doctors in the field don't even use. Don't hesitate. And because it's the 50th anniversary of the Warriors winning the championship in 75, because it's the 50th anniversary of Rick Barry winning the finals MVP, mention Rick's name. And Dr. Rosanelli will add a zero to it to give you $500 off your order. Give him a call, 415-931-9881. Again, 415-931-9881, or visit rosanelli.com. A beautiful head of hair awaits you. And last but not least, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform. I hope you folks want some money. If you played the Super Bowl and took some of that action yesterday, it is fun, it is exciting, and it is the world's most trusted betting platform. BetOnline, the game starts here. And speaking of the game, the Golden State Warriors once again victorious tonight, 125-111 in Milwaukee. Sophia, this team is night and day different from the version we've been watching up until the Jimmy Butler trade. Even Buddy Hield looks like a completely different player. The ball is flowing. The offense looks like how it looked at the peak of the dynasty era. Stephen Curry is thriving. Your reaction to Jimmy Butler, a new piece on this Warriors team, and tonight's victory by the Golden State Warriors. Sophia, great to see you.
Great to see you as well. Yeah, I just think that Jimmy brings a level of intensity and assertiveness that the Warriors were lacking a little bit. So when he's on the court, like you mentioned, you see the difference just with the ball movement and the decisiveness by the Warriors, not as much of the just passing the ball around, waiting for someone to do something. It's actually intentional. So I think that his influence definitely played a factor in that. And just kind of like the comments he said the other day, where him and Steph are complete opposites, where Steph floats out on the perimeter and Jimmy resides inside. And I felt like we saw that dynamic at work, where players like Steph and even Buddy got a lot of shots along the perimeter, and Jimmy was just going to work, getting to the free throw line. Another very refreshing sight for the Warriors team. But this was even though Giannis Antetokounmpo was out, this was still a solid win for the Warriors on the road versus Milwaukee.
Yeah, the Bucks are a lot better than what I anticipated for a team that did not have Giannis, and I think a huge part of it is Taurean Prince, who is shooting 45% from three, entering this game. He finished the night 5 of 7 from three, and the Bucks have a few players like that. We knew the Gary Trent signing was all over the news. There was that didn't slide under the radar, or at least like Taurean Prince did for me. Gary Trent Jr., awesome player for him. Bobby Portis, we all know how good he could be, but he was shut down tonight. Really, the two players that were doing much for Milwaukee besides Taurean Prince was new addition Kyle Kuzma, who had 21 points tonight for the Bucks, and then Dame Lillard, Dame dollar bills, y'all, 38 points for the Bucks tonight. Had 13 free throw attempts, but again, the firepower was not enough for Milwaukee's side. And you look at the Warriors, and I want to start with Stephen Curry, because this is a man who, for I don't know how long now, on programs like ours, we've been clamoring for this guy to get some help. He's one of the greatest to ever played. There was a graphic tonight that highlighted, and I'll share the screen to show you the graphic that NBC Sports Barrier presented, just to show you his impact. I mean, there's a million different stats that you could look at in terms of like evidence that indicates just how good of a player Stephen Curry is. But this one is one of many. I was blown away, Sophia, the other night when we found out, or if you knew already, more power to you, but I think most of us found out that Stephen Curry has 41 career games where he scored 20 or more points in a quarter. That was absurd. And this was another stat that was shown to us tonight, which I want to show the audience now. If you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening on the podcast, I'll articulate it for you. But basically, the stat is most 40-point games after turning 30. And Michael Jordan, no surprise, leads this stat with 44. Stephen Curry is second in NBA history in terms of 40-plus point games for a player age 30 or above. He's at 38 of them. Now, he didn't hit 40 tonight. Stephen Curry finished this game with 38. He finished 2 shy. Side note, that graphic was shown in the first quarter of tonight's game, but I reveal that, and we'll break down Steph's numbers in a little bit, largely because it was a borderline crime, at least to me, that the Warriors, for all this time, was not providing Stephen Curry with the help that a superstar of his caliber normally gets, that normally has by his side. And now it's only been 2 games, but in these 2 games, Steph scored 34, I believe, last game, scores 38 tonight. And what are you seeing in terms of Stephen Curry, besides the fact he looks a million times happier, besides the fact that you can tell he's playing a much more free-flowing style of offense without having 3 defenders tailing him, having eyeballs on him at all times? It's almost like you're watching a brand new player. What are you seeing so far? I know it's only 2 games. The sample size is small, but what are you seeing so far with Stephen Curry finally having some help by his side? Because I'm seeing a player that is approaching an unstoppable level yet again. Your thoughts, Sophia?
Well, in addition to that graphic, I have to bring up the February Steph. And Steph has always historically had really strong Februaries. And I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing now as well. But with Jimmy, because I feel like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, when they're on the floor together as well, they just kind of operate within that mid-range paint area. And you saw a couple times, especially against the zone, where it would just be a quick pass into the free throw line or the elbow, and then another dump down pass to the block for the post up or in the dunker spot. So especially when Jimmy and Draymond are in the game together, you see them facilitate off of each other as well, which again just really opens up the floor. It condenses the defense to get inside and not just have everyone all eyes on Steph, even though they a lot of times do have it that way, just with another high profile scorer on the floor, especially with the way that Jimmy gets the free throw line, because Jimmy's always going to look to attack downhill more so, downhill or in the mid range, which, especially when he draws fouls at the rate he does, that's when you start to have people come over and help. And then he kicks out, and if that's that, even if it wasn't to Steph, that could be Steph's man, and they have to rotate, and it's just a bunch of pass, which we saw that ball movement on display tonight, and it was just, it felt a lot more cohesive, and these past two games have been some of the more high volume Stephen Curry shooting performances I've seen recently, and it's just because he was open. I mean, he had the confidence and that responsibility. And when you have that weight lifted off your shoulders, it can allow for a player to move more freely.
Oh, big time. And there's a lot we're going to break down. But Stephen Curry, again, he has help. He's showing what happens when there is a secondary superstar alongside him. Stephen Curry's numbers tonight, he shot 50% from the field, 12 of 24. His three-point shooting, not quite as good, but still more than fine for an average NBA night. And for Stephen Curry, 6 of 16 shooting from deep. He was 8 of 9 from the free throw line. Second game in a row he's missed a free throw, which by his standards is alarming. Yeah, I'm really concerned now. We got to talk about it. I'm just kidding. 8 of 9 shooting from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and even the turnovers are down a little bit. Stephen Curry had 2 turnovers tonight in 33 minutes, 59 seconds of play, below his season average, which is I think 3.1, somewhere around there. 38 points for Stephen Curry in this game. The clip you were talking about, we haven't played it on this show yet. Jimmy Butler, after his debut against the Bulls, brought up the fact that him and Steph are opposites in a lot of ways. Whereas, as you mentioned, where Steph is, dominates, kills the outside, elite as it gets with 3-point shooting, whereas Jimmy Butler, much more of an inside player. He knows how to manipulate the inside. He knows how to get to the paint really easily. This stat was another one that NBC Sports Bay Area showed tonight before I played the clip. Because I didn't know this either. Over the last 10 years, Jimmy Butler is 6th in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. Joel Embiid is the leader, averaging 10 free throw attempts per game. James Harden, no surprise there, second on the list at 9.1. Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is not playing tonight, 8.8. Luka Doncic, who is making his Lakers debut tonight, with 8.2. Zion Williamson, 7.9. And then 6th on the list, Jimmy Butler, averaging 7.7 free throws per game over the last 10 years. That's the 6th highest clip in the NBA, and the Warriors need that. And you can immediately feel the difference that brings to the table, among many things. Jimmy Butler tonight, by the way, following up 13 free throw attempts in the win over Chicago, he had 15 free throw attempts tonight, making 12 of them. And here's the clip that Sophia, you mentioned, that you brought up about Jimmy Butler and opposites. Here is Jimmy Butler talking about him and Stephen Curry and how sometimes opposites attract.
They say opposites attract in a lot of ways in life, and I don't think I could be a better compliment to him and vice versa, in the sense that they're not leaving him ever. Probably 2 people would never leave him. So there's so much space for everybody else. And I get the easy job. I'm playing one-on-one, and I'm playing in so much space. And then everybody's looking for him, and everybody's looking to get him open. And at the same time, he's looking for everybody else. So it's so great to play with somebody like that.
Yeah, it is. And that was the cut right there. Opposites oftentimes do attract. Not always, but they do in this case so far. What did you see from Jimmy Butler tonight? It's been and the 2 games you've seen so far. Jimmy Butler has been a favorite player of mine for years. You have some close connections, I believe, with either him and or his immediate circle, given you're from the Miami area and he played there for a long time. Your immediate reaction, or not immediate, just your reaction in general to Jimmy Butler. Like, you've seen him, we've all seen him for 2 games now. So far, so damn good. What are your thoughts so far? Seeing Jimmy Butler in a Warriors uniform, it looks good on him. I haven't seen the blue yet. The black looks good. Your thoughts on Jimmy Butler with the Warriors through 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying seeing it. And you talk about my connection a little bit. So Jimmy Butler works out a lot with Stan Remy, a trainer in Miami who I used to train with as well when I played D1 basketball at San Jose State.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll see each other in passing sometimes just at the gym, but that's my connection there. But I'm really liking Jimmy Butler on this team, and one of the underrated things as well was his defense tonight. And that's another thing that the Warriors they just need that intensity. I've always been a fan of teams having a certain type of enforcer. And Jimmy is that. He'll get into some people, or I mean, kind of along the same lines as Draymond, I guess, but Jimmy a little bit more agile in this stage. And yes, I did go to San Jose
Hell
State
yeah.
for the comment. But yeah, I mean, he had 4 steals tonight, and it was really artful to watch the way that he would get the steal and then push the break as well. So he's really playing into the fast-paced style as well that the Warriors love. And I think that was on full display tonight, where there were just a bunch of players eating.
They're munching. It's absolutely, man. The buffet is open right now. Ever since Jimmy Butler came on board with the Golden State Warriors, one thing that's going to be very interesting is how Jonathan Kuminga is implemented when he comes back. The Warriors released an update today that he's going to be reevaluated in another 10 days. He's going to start practicing with the team immediately after the All-Star break, if I have my information correct. The anticipation, the likelihood is following the All-Star break, the Warriors have 2 more games before the break, that when they come back from that break, that Kuminga is going to be implemented. I do have a critique about tonight's game, and I'll let them hear your thoughts. And there is a reason I bring that up with Kuminga, which is that the Warriors went with a small ball starting 5, where Draymond Green was back at the center
Really?
position. Well, you noticed that too, right?
I've never heard of that before. Small ball lineup. Wow.
This is how I know Sophia's getting comfortable. You're cracking jokes. I love it. I love that. Bravo. You're bring that all day, every day. Yes, we rarely, if ever, we see it on the reg. But it was weird tonight because Quinton Post has been starting. I think it's been like 4 or 5 games in a row where Quinton Post has started. We saw the small ball lineup tonight with Dre at the 5. Something tells me that's what we're going to have to get accustomed to seeing when Jonathan Kuminga comes back. Because I think the starting lineup tonight was it was Dre at the 5, Butler, Buddy Hield, Steph, and Moses Moody. And the reason why I bring this up is because my intuition is telling me that when Kuminga does come back, he's going to slide into that spot that Moody was in tonight. That's what I anticipate seeing as the 5. I could be wrong on that, but I don't like Draymond starting at the 5. I don't like him playing heavy minutes. I know Milwaukee's a smaller team than some others. Like, I know Brook Lopez is a big dude, but Dre can handle Brook Lopez. Like, that's not a backbreaking assignment for him. With that said, I'm not a fan of it, but I also thought that part of the reason we saw that tonight, I think, is because ultimately that's going to be the 5, except Kuminga subbing in for Moody. I could be completely mistaken on that. Anything you read into that kind of bizarre starting 5? Because I thought Quinton Post was doing a fine job. He played great tonight, by the way. We're going to talk about him in a little bit, but what was your reaction besides the joke? Bust those out all day, every day, Sophia. I love it. The small 5 that the Warriors presented starting tonight. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where for this game it worked, and it could be something where based off of whatever team the Warriors are facing on a given night, that could change. I'm with you. I don't really like Draymond in that center spot as much, and the small ball, I don't know how that's going to work against some of these bigger teams, but I mean, Buddy Hield has also been someone that has been in and out of the starting lineup, so it could even be something where potentially even Moses Moody just slides into the shoot, or Kuminga's the shooting guard spot, and then Jimmy Butler's a 3, Draymond 4, and then Quinton Post again in the 5. So that could be something that we might see if they do need to pull out a bigger lineup. But I mean, it worked this game. It's just going to be something dependent on every team that they face. I think we're going to see, but we touch on Quinton Post a little bit. He almost looked better coming off the bench.
You think he played better off the bench? Like it's a better fit for him to not start?
I don't know how much is actually. I'll backtrack a little bit. I don't know how much it is due to the fact that the Warriors were just already rolling. And I think with every single game, Quinton Post has shown some improvement. And you can tell he's getting more and more comfortable. So I don't know if it was as much that as coming off of the bench. But I mean, if he continues on the trajectory that he's at right now, he could definitely slide into that starting lineup for the center. It's just like I said, it's going to depend on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Post still we didn't see him play a lot in the first half. In fact, I'm looking this up now for the first time. In the first half, Quinton Post played a total of 6 minutes, 11 seconds. He timed and a half that in the second half, finished the game with 15 plus minutes, but a quiet first half for him. I thought Guy Santos also had a quiet first half. Played just 2 minutes in the first half before finishing it with 6. I kind of wish we saw more Guy. I love the kid, and I think he has a long-term role with the Golden State Warriors. But switching from that tiny small ball 5 that we saw to start the game, there was a very interesting lineup late in the first quarter. And I don't know if Kerr continued this going into the second quarter, and I don't know if you noticed this either. It definitely stuck out to me enough to write it down in my notes. Kerr went with a 5 individual lineup at one point in this game. And actually, as you answer, I'm going to look up how it did. I did not measure the net rating for that brief stretch where they play together. But the 5 that was out there, and this is not normal, and I don't know if you noticed this as well, Sophia. Steve Kerr went with Brandin Podziemski as his point guard, who stands 6'4", maybe even 6'5", depending on what listing you're looking at. Jimmy Butler was his 2. Guy Santos was his 3, Draymond Green was his 4, and Quinton Post was the 5. Jimmy Butler at the 2, sign me up all day, every day for that. I was shocked watching that. I don't know if that was just something Steve Kerr was experimenting with. I mean, he's got a new player in Jimmy Butler that I imagine his mind is racing, thinking of all the possibilities, but I liked it. It was a very small sample size. We didn't see much of it, but we actually saw a lineup by the Warriors that had considerable length, considerable size. I don't know if you saw that as well. What were your thoughts on it if you did?
No, I did notice that. And that's kind of another one of the weaknesses of the pre-Jimmy Warriors team was in those non-Steph minutes where we saw Podziemski or Schroeder at the point guard. It just looked discombobulated and stagnant, which was not the case this game. And you mentioned like that specific unit. I feel like having this, especially Jimmy and Draymond on the floor at the same time, where they're both veteran players that can facilitate, and Jimmy especially can score. He's that primary scorer of the group. I think that's pretty strong, and I feel especially on the defensive end as well. That's a big line, or I won't say big, but that's a longer lineup than we're used to seeing, and very defensive oriented. I mean, Podziemski, he'll take his charges and he'll compete. Jimmy obviously will compete. And then you said Guy Santos, he's long.
Yeah.
Draymond, former defensive player of the year. Quinton Post still needs to get a little more physical, but he's got that rim protection length. So No, I definitely remember that lineup and just thinking in the back of my mind how it's refreshing to see these non-Steph minutes, especially when Steph is on a heater like he was this game, and not seeing a significant decrease in the Warriors play.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm trying to find like the exact time period because I'm very curious to know. Again, Guy Santos, it was not a long experiment because Guy Santos only played 2 minutes in the first half, and I'm guessing that was his entire run. Yeah, Guy Santos came in the first quarter at the 2:19 mark, and then Jimmy Butler came back into the game. This was after a timeout for GP2, and then Quinton Post came in for Stephen Curry. So suddenly you had this big lineup out there, which we don't see often. The score at that time of the substitution was 25-25. So it was a tie game. And then when the quarter ended, I'm checking to see if the Warriors made any substitutions during that period. They did not. And so when the quarter ended, the Warriors were up 29-27 after one. So it was 2 minutes of testing it out, and the Warriors outscored the Bucks 4-2. So I think if anything, again, Guy Santos playing the 3, Jimmy playing the 2, Podziemski leading the leading at the point. I want to see more of it. I mean, I like that experimentation. I don't know about you, but it's exciting to see that even Steve Kerr is being open-minded right now. I'm giddy, Sophia. I don't know how else to say. Look, I'm gonna guess you don't consider yourself a member of Dub Nation. I don't know if you have a favorite basketball team. Do you? Is there a certain team that you actually have an emotional attachment to?
While I do try to remain as impartial as possible,
Of course.
the Warriors are my favorite team.
All right. So you love the Warriors. We'll call you a member of Dub Nation. Are you getting giddy about this? Are you like are your feet literally turning into wings and you're floating around right now? Taking breaks, sitting on clouds like I am, because I'm ecstatic. This is ridiculous how awesome this is. Jimmy Butler, I love you, brother. It's only been 2 games and I'm already madly in love with this guy. Sophia, are you feeling the giddiness as well, or are you a little more grounded and maybe a little more pragmatic about things than I am right now?
I'm really excited. I mean, aside from the Warriors, another team, just because I grew up in Miami, I always rooted for the Heat. And obviously, I have that connection with Jimmy through our shared basketball trainer, Stan Remy. I always knew what Jimmy was about. I know there's the difference sometimes between East Coast, West Coast, where sometimes there's a lack of understanding, I guess you could say. But I always knew what Jimmy was about. So I knew that he was going to come to this team and he was going to be a competitor. He was going to just be a gritty player that is going to do what needs to get done. So I'm feeling pretty good about the state of the Warriors. And we mentioned also, Kuminga isn't even playing right now. And so this team could look even scarier when he does start to get back into his flow.
Oh, I'm excited. Coast to Coast dropping $4.99. Talking about my beard. I will trim this thing. Part of the reason why I have this ridiculous beard that makes me look like a hobo is it's so cold. I've never in my life, this is like one of the coldest winters I've ever experienced, Sophia. I don't know how you felt as a resident of San Francisco. I'm a little bit north of you, but it has been freezing. I've never in my life until this winter understood the beard basically serving as a face coat, and it warms me up. I got the dog who's just adding with the snuggle. So it's a winter thing, but I understand how ridiculous it looks. With all that said, but Coast to Coast is adding that he enjoys the enthusiasm of this team, fan of yours, just bringing in some positive mojo. So Coast to Coast, thank you for that. That was pretty cool. Jimmy Butler, by the way, his numbers for tonight, I don't think I've read these yet, and it's worth reading because in his second game as a member of the Golden State Warriors, Jimmy played 31 minutes, 23 seconds. Field goal percentage shooting-wise was not the most efficient by his standards, I think by any standards. He was 4 of 12 shooting from the field, 0 of 2 shooting from 3, but 12 of 15 from the free throw line, 15 free throw attempts. The man knows how to use his body when he's in the paint to draw fouls. His basketball IQ is up there among the elite of the NBA. He also added 9 rebounds in this game. Sophia, one aspect of his game that, and you brought this up earlier, but if you don't mind expanding on it, a part of his game that not a lot of people discuss is passing. One of Steve Kerr's first comments about Jimmy Butler, interesting side note, and I mentioned this before on the show, but I'll mention it again. They'd never met. They never conversed. Those two are brand new in terms of relationships with one another. And one of Steve Kerr's first comments about Jimmy Butler was Butler reminded him of Andre Iguodala a little bit in terms of the connectivity he brings on the court, in terms of the physique, in terms of the basketball IQ. And I bring that up because the passing of Jimmy Butler is a facet of his game. Again, not a lot of people have discussed. You brought it up tonight. 6 assists, and he finds open players. He's not someone who's all about him. He's all about the team. I love 20 points, by the way, in the night for Jimmy Butler. You mentioned the 4 steals, highlighting his defensive impact, but the passing, the 6 assists, him basically leading the second unit when Steph is off the floor. Suddenly the Warriors are looking competent when Stephen Curry has to take breathers. What are you seeing from him as a facilitator, as a passer?
Yeah, Jimmy doesn't tend to get sped up by defenses, which is a huge aspect of why he catches the ball and he assesses. He doesn't let himself get flustered or immediately tries to do something reckless. He'll catch and assess, and I think that's why that's where you're seeing some of his facilitation abilities come in with those 6 assists today. And when he catches, a lot of that sometimes is, again, like in the mid-range, floating around the paint area, where catch, assess, see if the defense is being drawn in at all. And especially because you have players like Steph Curry or even Buddy Hield that are just always moving off ball. That's where he can either make the decision to go and take it himself or find them on the perimeter. But yeah, again, I think it's just due to Jimmy's pace and his patience that we're seeing that IQ at work.
And only the game's greatest control the tempo. Like Luka Doncic to me is a master of that. Like you cannot force Luka to play at your pace. He's going to make you play at his. And Jimmy Butler's another example of that. Stephen Curry's always been fantastic at that. LeBron James is probably the apex when it comes to that in at least the modern era since the 2000s. So great point on that. Tasha, if you don't mind tagging that for a promo, because Sophia, you nailed it with that analysis. 100% agree with you. One of many players who are benefiting, at least from what I'm seeing, with the arrival of Jimmy Butler has been Buddy Hield, who looks like a completely different player since Jimmy arrived. We kind of saw him starting to turn a corner even before the trade, but he's looking good out there. Like he's being assertive. He's inserting himself in terms of defense, grabbing tough rebounds, stepping up defensively. I feel like everything about his game has switched. The streak is alive still in terms of Buddy Hield scoring 18 or more points, coinciding with the Warriors being undefeated. No, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. He only scored 16 points. I apologize for that. So the Warriors are still undefeated, but Jimmy, I'm sorry. I thought Buddy Hield for some reason scored 19. My apologies for that. Still a great game though. 16 points on the night. The 3-point shot wasn't falling at a great clip, but at least he made 2 of them, which is a lot more than we're accustomed to. I'm used to seeing Jimmy have like big fat zeros on the box score when it comes to 3-point shots. Tonight, 2 of 8 from deep, 7 of 15 from the field total, representing close to 50% shooting. You can live with that. 7 rebounds. Again, that's part of his game that we were not seeing him elevate his game with all these little intangible type things that he's doing now. He added 2 steals on the night as well, which I thought was huge. 3rd on the team in net rating with a plus 11, 16 points. 7 rebounds for Buddy Hield. What are you seeing about Buddy that has changed recently, if anything?
I don't necessarily know if I would call it change, but as much backlash as Steve Kerr and Buddy Hield were getting for Buddy remaining in that starting lineup and getting a lot of minutes, sometimes players just need to play through their slumps. And when you have a coach like Steve Kerr that continues to put you in position to be successful and their confidence in a player doesn't waver, sometimes that's all it takes for
Mm-hmm.
someone to just snap out and get back
Mm-hmm.
into their groove. And I think that's really what's happening right now. But again, like with Jimmy Butler on the court, the same way that Steph benefits, the same way that Buddy benefits. But it wasn't even as much as stuff on the perimeter for Buddy this game. It's like you said, those 7 rebounds, like the 2 steals, just a little bit of a different air to Buddy, I would say, which again, when there's that shift in mindset as opposed to X's and O's and tactically, I think that's where just the continued confidence that Steve Kerr showed in him and just the more minutes he got instead of just pulling him out and benching him, because that'll only make it worse. But letting him play through that, I think, is why we're seeing this result now.
Interesting stat here, and this is courtesy of a Twitter account that goes by the handle Automatic NBA. Terrific stats here that they posted, coinciding with the fact that the Warriors entering tonight's game prior to Jimmy Butler being acquired into the trade. One of the ugliest stats of the season were the fact that the Warriors are dead last in layups and free throws. I mean, that's crazy. The layup part of it especially is wild to me. I don't know how you can be last in the NBA, but yet there they are. That's the Warriors. And more specifically, since Jimmy Butler came onto the team, the Warriors have had back-to-back games of making 55% or higher on their layups and 75% or higher on free throws. They made 62.5% of their layups. Hold on a second here, just so I can get these stats right. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So the last game against the Bulls, they made 62.5% of their layups. Tonight, they made 58.1% of their layups. Against the Bulls, they hit 85.2% of their free throws. Tonight, they hit 78.9% of their free throws. I don't know if I was clear enough stating those stats, but Sophia, is that entirely because of Jimmy Butler? Is that the Jimmy Butler effect to you, seeing those layups and free throw numbers jumping considerably in just 2 games?
Well, when Jimmy shoots 15 this game and then you said 13 last game, that's definitely going to be a key contributor to the free throw percentage rising. But I think the layups too, I mean, like I said, Jimmy, he likes to get downhill either to finish at the rim or pull up mid-range or around the basket. So some of those layups, they're converting because of him. And apart from him, just the better, more cohesive offensive flow with ball movement, the more ball movement that you get, the more defensive rotations occur and the more gaps in the defense to just get downhill and get easy looks at the rim. That's kind of what we're seeing. I mean, there's a reason why when the percentage is low for layups, it's because all of them are contested. So when you actually get open ones, especially in transition as well, off of some steals and turnovers, I believe the Warriors forced 20 turnovers by the Bucks tonight. That's another big number. That's what you're going to get, those higher percentage shots.
Yeah, this has been beautiful to watch. No sound coming down tonight, at least not so far. Again, when the Warriors are on the road, they have a very small media contingent traveling with the team. So all these sound bites that we've been accustomed to for years just being pumped out through social media immediately after games, we're not seeing that as much, largely because there's so few media members traveling with the team on these road games. And you could think budget cuts play a huge part in that as well. You don't have organizations sending the journalists out with these teams. But Sam Gordon of the San Francisco Chronicle, who will be back on the show soon, saying that Jimmy Butler, quoting Steve Kerr as saying that Jimmy Butler's adjustment to Golden State has been, quote, absolutely seamless. And it's because of Jimmy's IQ. He just has an incredible feel for the game. All we had to do was give him a few of our actions. Otherwise, it's just basketball, unquote. Yes, and Steve Kerr has clearly been loving this transition so far. Quinton Post tonight, again, he came off the bench. He started the last few games for the team. This was a coaching decision to go small, as we talked about earlier in the show. There were moments in this game where he was pumped. He was making some big shots. It wasn't just from outside. He was also attacking the rim. Quinton Post tonight, 13 points, 4 rebounds in this game, 3 of 4 shooting from deep. So all the talk about Quinton Post, the 3-point shooter, it's no longer talk. It's reality. The guy can shoot threes. The guy belongs in the NBA. He got his guaranteed deal. So he's the 12th man on the roster currently in terms of chronological order of player signings, although in terms of minutes, he's getting a lot more than that. But 13 points, 4 boards, added his assist in the game tonight, plus 11 in terms of net rating. Your thoughts, Sophia, on Quinton Post, who's quickly proving that he belongs in the NBA?
Yeah, it's just been great to see his development. I recall it wasn't very long ago that we were noting that, hey, Quinton Post is here sitting on the bench. I wonder when he's going to dress up, or I wonder when he's going to get some minutes. It wasn't that long ago that we were seeing that. So to see his ascent to having contributing minutes and contributing plays now, I think it'll only keep improving. I mean, he's getting confidence in his shot, not just even doing catch and shoot anymore. We saw there was one play he had like a pump fake sidestep 3 that I think, like you mentioned, got him and the team really pumped. And yeah, I just think that he's been a really good pickup for the Warriors, and I'm glad to see him get some minutes.
Same. And producer Tasha, I mentioned her name a couple times. She's been helping out with making shorts for us. She's behind the scenes, and so far has been just a fantastic individual. I bring this name up because last show I attributed her as telling me that Jimmy Butler is a big chess player, and then she corrected me this morning and said, no, I apologize. That was my bad. He's a big dominoes player. And I bring that up right now because if you go on social media, if you follow me at least, again, I'm on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild, over on Twitter at Surf Journalist. I reposted someone else's content of Jimmy playing dominoes with his Warriors teammates. And one of the pictures in particular was him and Draymond Green looking like they're having the time of their lives. And I bring that up because Draymond Green looks like he's loving life. Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler look like 2 peas from a pod, man. Their tenacity, their mentality. It's a crime that has taken this long to unite those two. I'm seeing a next level in Draymond Green. I'm seeing a reinvigorated individual, especially defensively. He's getting blocks coming out of nowhere. His hands are all over the place. He looks good, Sophia. The box score will not reflect that, which is usually the case tonight. Case in point, 6 points, 5 rebounds. 6 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds in 32 minutes, 11 seconds of play. The 3-point shot has not been falling for him lately. Hasn't mattered, but he led the team in net rating. He was second on the team in net rating with a plus 14. And I'm seeing a whole new version of Draymond Green in terms of defensive tenacity. I've noticed Jimmy Butler even feeding him the ball to run the point. You and I have talked about his usage rate having dipped a little bit in recent years. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's Jimmy or I don't know if Draymond feels that more comfortable running the point with Jimmy on the floor, but Draymond is back to being point Draymond offensively. Defensively, he's reinvigorated. Are you seeing any differences yourself from Draymond Green? Because I see someone who's happy and who's on fire out there.
I am seeing differences, and I know there were like a lot of memes and people saying, "Oh, how are Draymond and Jimmy gonna get along?" Like making a whole big deal of it. But from the second I saw the trade and that discourse kind of started, yes, like Greg is saying, Dre and Jimmy are IQ brothers. I mean, and furthermore than IQ, when you just have people who are ultra competitive and intense, and there's a common goal, they gel. I mean, even I think Steve Kerr has mentioned before that him and Draymond, they sometimes butt heads, but at the end of the day, since they're both extremely intense competitors, they put it to the side because they have that common goal. And that's exactly what I think is happening between him and Jimmy. So, I mean, when you want to win games, they're gonna make it happen. I mean, Jimmy's not called Jimmy Buckets for no reason,
Yep.
but yeah, I've seen definitely a kind of reinvigorated Draymond, and not just in the in a scoring sense, but in a facilitating and just seeing and directing stance. When he's in that back line of the defense, he's pointing and talking and just being very active and vocal. So I think that's why you're seeing the energy increase. And I really do think Jimmy has something to do with that, because when you have another like-minded person like Jimmy and Draymond are, it can really accentuate both of their strengths.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. One other player I want to highlight following tonight's game is Brandin Podziemski, who's been getting a lot of run ever since Dennis Schroeder got traded. 32 minutes, 8 seconds tonight. And he only made 1 3, which is a little surprising as I'm saying that out loud, because I feel like I remember him hitting a bunch of threes, but he only hit 1 in tonight's game. He was 3 of 10 from the field, 1 of 5 from deep, but he did have 9 rebounds in this game, added 3 assists, 9 points total, led the team in net rating with a plus 18. That's the kind of figure we've been accustomed to seeing from Quinton Post. So the net rating stat is back up for him, which means when he's out there, the Warriors are playing winning basketball. What are you seeing anything different from Brandin Podziemski lately? I'm seeing someone who's making smart decisions. His defense looks a little better. I'm noticed, like tonight, for example, he was defending Dame Lillard and he was successfully staying in front of him. Not an easy task. What are you seeing from Brandin Podziemski lately, and any thoughts on him as a whole?
Yeah, just from an offensive standpoint, I definitely do think he looks more comfortable, as opposed to earlier in the season. I noticed where it was like everyone was just playing hot potato and no one was being decisive about what they wanted to run or what actions they were supposed to be going through. And now I'm seeing Podziemski just be more decisive and work better within the flow of the offense with his teammates. So I definitely do think Podziemski is starting to he looks more comfortable again. And part of that potentially could have had to do with Schroeder being gone, and just kind of now it's back to being his second unit as opposed to Dennis Schroeder running it. Now it's his again. So that could be why we're seeing a little bit of that. But also what you mentioned with that one lineup where it was Podziemski at the 1 and then Jimmy Butler at the 2. Where I think for him to have another player like that as well, which Podziemski, he's another guy. He's just kind of, get it out the mud competitor. He's going to do all the intangibles and the little things. He'll take charges. He'll dive on the floor. And that's stuff that, it really diffuses to everyone else. And when it's on other people, for example, Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green, it diffuses back to you. So I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing.
And I love what I'm seeing. And I imagine I speak on behalf of Dub Nation, who Sophia Jones is a part of. Love hearing that tonight. I imagine I'm speaking on behalf of everyone and saying the Jimmy Butler experiment so far has been a marvelously beautiful thing to watch. And Sam Gordon adding, again, because we have no sound tonight, at least so far, Sam Gordon quoting Jimmy Butler after the game that Jimmy says his conditioning, quote, is nowhere close to being where it needs to be. And I can't wait until I'm back in basketball shape the way that I'm used to being, unquote. Jimmy Butler added, according to Sam Gordon of the San Francisco Chronicle, that he still has, that there's still time to go, and that he's crediting the Warriors for ensuring that he's comfortable. So all the concerns about whether or not Jimmy Butler could fit with the team, whether his antics to get himself out of Miami would affect the Warriors in a negative manner, so far, so damn good. I don't see a guy out there, Sophia, who looks out of shape. What are your thoughts on the fact that Jimmy Butler is saying, I'm not even close to ready, yet he's putting up numbers like he's putting up? That's beautiful to hear. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, before he got to the Warriors, he was obviously on the Heat, but he wasn't playing a lot of games. And there's definitely a difference between being in shape and being in basketball shape. You can
Mm-hmm.
go on as many runs or do the VersaClimb or assault bike or just any form of cardio possible to get yourself in shape as a basketball player. But nothing is going to compare when you're actually playing a full game. So I think that's a little bit what he's talking about, because obviously he had those suspensions before he got to the Warriors, so he wasn't getting a lot of minutes under his belt. But if he feels like there's still more work to do, then that's definitely a positive sign and potentially a reason why we're seeing a little bit of a lower field goal percentage right now, because when you have your legs under you, the shot always looks better.
Yeah. We've said this on the show before. Friendly reminder in case you're fairly new to the program or you just don't remember me ever saying this, but Stephen Curry some years back revealed in an interview, and I really don't think he intended to say this. It was a little slip of what goes on in Stephen Curry's mind that I at least love hearing about, because he provided some insight into his strategy, his mentality, his approach to an NBA season. And I can't remember what this interview was. If I ever find it, I don't even know if there was an audio or video element to it. It might have been just in print. But Stephen Curry said he looks at the NBA season in three parts. Part one, he approaches aggressively, and that coincides with his numbers. He usually has a great start to the season. He's putting up big numbers. And then he treats the middle part of the season as a wind down, where he said he shifts his metaphorical gear of intensity of effort down a little bit. So let's say if Stephen Curry's a five gear automobile, he shifts it down to maybe, let's say, 3 or 4, and the numbers reflect that. And this season, people have brought up the fact that there's been a slight diminishment. His stats in terms of December, he averaged 21.5 points per game. In January, he averaged 22.2 points per game. A lot of that, I think, was just the fact that he had little to no help. A lot of that, I think, was him treating his body the way he thinks he should treat it best in preparing for a postseason run. And Stephen Curry said the third part of the season, which includes the postseason, is when he starts ramping it up again. And he ramps it up then, and he treats the season this way to basically preserve his energy for when it matters the most. And I bring all this up because in the month of February, Stephen Curry, his numbers are absurd. He's scoring 31.8 points per game. The only part of his the only stat that's not fantastic is his 3-point shooting. It's at 33.3%, but he's dishing 5.5 assists. My point is, we're starting to see the Stephen Curry that a lot of people are accustomed to seeing. He turns 37 in a month, but I see a guy that can still play with the best of them. I don't think he's washed. And I think Jimmy Butler being here is showing that this man just needed help. What are your thoughts on Stephen Curry as we approach the All-Star game? And when we're out of the All-Star game, the run is on. What are your thoughts about Steph?
I mean, to have that mindset makes sense, because as much as you can try to say it, it's kind of unrealistic when you're playing 80 plus games a season to just come out on the court every single time and have insane, crazy intensity and like you're going to kill everyone. That's not really realistic. It's a long season. And when you try to just go 110% all the time, sometimes it doesn't necessarily work, especially for an older player. That can lead to injuries and just sometimes burnout as well. But no, with February stuff, the All-Star break's coming soon, so that's another time for players to just, especially with him having a family, just going back to that and getting a little TLC and relaxation. So I think that whole ramp up, especially with Jimmy being here and Kuminga getting back after the All-Star break, it could potentially look pretty good, I'm thinking, for the Warriors.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Good stuff. One last player to bring up as we start to wrap up the show. Does not feel like we've been talking for an hour, Sophia. Good job on your part, certainly. Moses Moody started the game. I love him. I don't know how you feel about Moody. I love the guy. I'm so excited that he signed that extension before the season started. So at a bare minimum, even when he's getting his minutes jerked around, at least he achieved financial security. So I'm happy for him and his family. The man grew up with very humble beginnings. His stat line tonight, I thought was fine. I mean, his three-point shooting, he only hit 20% of his three-point shots. That's not great, but it didn't cost the Warriors, thankfully. He was 1 of 5 shooting from 3, but he was 5 of 10 overall from the field. So take away the three-point shots, and he was 4 of 5 shooting. He hit 80% of his non-three-point field goals tonight. 13 points. Look, if you're hitting double figures in scoring, that's great on a team like this, especially. 3 rebounds to go along with that. He had 3 steals and a block tonight. Easy to forget that Moses Moody has that 7'2" wingspan, which does cause problems for other teams defensively. Part of the reason I bring him up tonight as well, besides the fact that I thought he had a good game despite the three-point shooting, is Robert Mao brought this up in the chat. Or is it, yeah, Robert Mao is at Roberti Mao, I apologize, is asking, whose minutes will Kuminga hypothetically take? And I look at the roster right now, and it's one thing for me to tell you what I think will happen or what should happen versus what Kerr will do. But I look at GP2's 10 minutes. I could see that going to Kuminga. I look at Kevon Looney's 12 minutes, 14 seconds. That could maybe go to Kuminga. Guy Santos' 6 minutes, 22 seconds. That could probably go to Kuminga. Moses Moody played 32 minutes, 58 seconds. Highly doubt you're going to be seeing that level of minutes from Moody when Kuminga comes back. It could be a by committee thing where it's just taking small pieces of each player's totals. It could be just one player gets phased out altogether. Maybe that's Moody. Maybe that's Guy Santos. I don't know. I'm fascinated. Sophia, do you have any guesses for where those minutes will come from when Kuminga comes back after the All-Star break?
Yeah, kind of like you said, definitely might look like something where it's going to be by committee. Could even come from Buddy Hield's minutes. He had 30 tonight.
Yes.
Or even Podziemski's. He had 32. And because I mentioned Podziemski as well, because Jimmy could honestly be a point forward in some of those scenarios when they don't have a ball handler on the floor.
You know what? One of many things that I cannot wait to see is Kuminga's likely going to continue coming off the bench, and that's fine. I don't think that's a big deal. Hopefully Kuminga doesn't think that as well either, because he's still going to likely get big minutes. He's likely going to still close games, and depth has never mattered more in the NBA, given how much talent there is across the board. Like if you're not a deep team in today's NBA, you don't have much of a shot. The Warriors have tremendous depth, and what I am just absolutely ecstatic about is watching Jimmy and Kuminga play together, especially in those second units where other teams are benching their best players, and suddenly their second units are looking at a Warriors second unit with Jimmy Butler, with Jonathan Kuminga, Brandin Podziemski, who's playing well again, Quinton Post, who could burn you hard with those outside shots. But Kuminga and Butler, more specifically, those two, I'm putting myself in the shoes of an opposing head coach who has to worry about the defense that you play. And I don't know how you strategize against that. Like, it's one thing to worry about Jimmy and all the effects and the aftershocks of what happens when he attacks the paint, because it collapses everything. And then it's just a doom, like 2-3 passes, you're going to find an open guy, and then hopefully he makes a shot. With Kuminga on top of that, I'm blown away. Like, as long as you have at least one shooter on the floor, I think that offense is going to just annihilate opposing defenses. What are your thoughts on a very exciting thing to contemplate here?
Yeah, and I think we mentioned earlier about the layups percentage and how when the ball is just moving so much better, there are more gaps to attack in the defense. And the Warriors' best person to attack would be Kuminga. So when you have the floor just spread out and you have Jimmy potentially orchestrating and they're just running stuff, Kuminga can have so many opportunities. Even when you have a Quinton Post in when he's in the set or when he's playing center, he's not clogging up the paint. He's actually stretching the big man out to the perimeter because he is that 3-point threat. So I think that could really be a good lineup, and especially just with Jimmy's intensity spreading throughout and hopefully lingering on Kuminga.
Yeah, Joshua Dave Labrador, who is riling up the chat a little bit. Joshua, you only have to post your post. Sorry to be redundant there. Just one time. You don't have to repeat it. You don't have to do all caps either. But regardless, I'll read your post here, which says that he thinks the Warriors can go with Steph, Jimmy, Kuminga, Draymond, and Post as a 5-man unit that is borderline unstoppable. Look, if Quinton Post can get to a point where he can give you a serious post-season minutes and not be a detriment as a rookie, the possibilities are endless. I get giddy thinking about that. What are your thoughts on Joshua Dave Labrador's 5-man lineup? Is that the best 5? Would you make a tweak to that, Sophia? Your thoughts?
I think that's the best 5. I didn't think I said that lineup a little bit earlier as well. I can't remember. This show has been long.
It's been a long season, even though it hasn't really been, but it's felt like it. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yep.
But no, I think kind of the same with you. If Quinton Post can, really hone his skills and develop into a reliable center, that's going to be a really strong lineup.
Yeah.
And I mean, Steph, he'll take the point guard, but between Jimmy, Kuminga, Draymond, and Post, that's a really long defensive lineup as well, which is something we're not used to seeing that could potentially cause some problems.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything else you feel like we should touch on with this game tonight? A game the Warriors won 125-111. I'll bring up the rebounding numbers real fast. The Warriors grabbed 48 team rebounds to 37 for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Warriors won the points in the paint battle 50-40, which is particularly fascinating to me when you don't have Kuminga. That's the Jimmy Butler effect. He's getting a lot of points inside. He's setting people up inside. So the Warriors outscored the Bucks by 10 in that category. I thought it was interesting that the Warriors committed 9 turnovers tonight, but Milwaukee only scored 2 points off those turnovers. What goes into that, Sophia? Is that just randomness when that happens? Is there something that a team like the Warriors is doing to prevent turnovers resulting in scores? What are your thoughts on that? Because that's a fascinating stat to me.
Yeah, well, because you run into issues when you're having too many live ball turnovers. So when you're turning it over when a play is still in action, which gives the defense an opportunity to just take the ball and go and score on the fast break, as opposed to a pass being thrown out of bounds or an offensive foul. So that's kind of where some of the discrepancies in turnovers leading to points off of turnovers.
I guess I'll entertain this. Salvador Estrada is asking, how come Kerr does not play Pat Spencer instead of Podziemski? I think that's an obvious answer. I mean, look, I will say this about Pat Spencer. I like him. I think he's a solid basketball player. What do you see from him as a fellow former point guard who played D1 basketball? I don't think Pat Spencer played D1 hoops. Maybe he did. I don't know if he did, but you played D1 hoops. What are your thoughts on Pat Spencer as a point guard in the NBA? I love the kid.
Yeah, he's very feisty. He kind of plays with a certain chip on his shoulder, so you'll at least get a competitor when he steps on the floor. But in terms of running a Warrior style of offense, you have to defer to Podziemski.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, agreed. And G joking around saying that he or she, I don't know the gender, was shocked that Steve Kerr didn't bench Jimmy Butler the moment he was on fire. Look, Steve Kerr has, as a coach, I will forever respect. It's almost the one player, the Jimmy Butler effect, the experience. Just one player is suddenly making it very hard for Steve Kerr to go wrong in his lineup. So I've always maintained that as long as the personnel is fine, you've got a great coach in Steve Kerr. It's just when we suddenly leave it open in terms of which 5 to play, you start to get into messes sometimes with that coaching job. But regardless, Yeah, I'm loving everything I'm seeing so far. Any final thoughts, Sophia, on the Warriors before we read the scoreboard and call it a night?
The last stat that I'm looking at that stuck out to me was the Warriors had 16 steals this game as opposed to Milwaukee's 5. So not only were they creating turnovers and like actually they're the live ball ones, so that's why they're considered steals. So they're very active on defense, but they took.
Oh, we lost Sophia Jones. Excuse me. Usually that happens because someone's calling her. There's like 2 or 3 different things that causes that. So, and the fact that she hasn't actually left us yet. Oh, now she's gone. Okay, she'll be back. She'll be right back. Interesting that she brought up the steals, because as she was discussing that steals number, I got curious to know what is the record for most steals in an individual game in NBA history. And the results, because I have no idea what that answer is. Individually, the record is shared by Larry Kennan and Kendall Gill. They each got 11 steals in a single NBA game, which is a record, again, for an individual. The 1996-97 Seattle Supersonics hold the NBA record for most steals in a game with 27. And we got Sophia back. While you disappeared, I was looking up the record for most steals in a game, because you're right, 16 is a lot. Great catch there. It turns out in 96-97, the Seattle Supersonics, and it's still a travesty to me that Seattle does not have a team currently, but they broke the record that's still held today. They had 27 steals in a 122-78 win over the Toronto Raptors on January 15th, 1997. Incredible. Michael Jordan once had 10 steals in a game. Again, I mentioned this earlier as well. Sophia, I don't know if you heard this or not, but Larry Kennan, I've never heard of that guy before. He played for the Kansas City Kings in the 60s and 70s. So Larry Kennan and Kendall Gill both hold the individual record for most steals in a game with 11. But finish your thought about the Warriors' 16 steals. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that not only were they creating a lot of chaos and capitalizing off of that on defense, the Bucks only had 5 steals, so they were taking care of the ball, which we talk about Jimmy and his ability to not get sped up, and just if the Warriors take care of the ball, that's always a good sign for that team. They can get a little lackadaisical with those turnovers sometimes. So seeing that focus on the offensive end and then turn that into, again, just flying around on defense is definitely something that stuck out to me this game.
Good call on that. The good observation, because I did not catch that. 16 steals for the Golden State Warriors in tonight's 125-111 victory. I'm glad Poison Clan 707 brought this up. I almost forgot to bring this up with you, Sophia, because the Golden State Warriors, I don't know if you caught this or not, and I reported this on the last show, I think, or maybe the episode before that, but Jimmy Butler had a trade bonus in his contract. Anthony Davis had the same thing and a lot of players, I imagine, have this clause where if you get traded, you get a reward for that. Like you get a bonus. It's something to kind of ease the pain and make the transition a little easier. And in Jimmy Butler's case, his trade bonus was somewhere in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. He waived it, and he did it to help the Warriors. And it's a huge assist off the court for Jimmy to the Warriors, because had he not waived that trade bonus, the Warriors still could have signed Quinton Post, and they still would have been able to finish out the roster with 14 players, but it would have been a million times more difficult. They would have had to constantly given players 10-day contracts and then send them back to Santa Cruz. They would not have been participants in the buyout market, but because he agreed to that, and because we're 2/3 of the way through the NBA season, so contracts are prorated, the Warriors, in addition to giving Quinton Post that guaranteed deal. So Post is an official member of the Warriors, not just a two-way player. He's eligible for the postseason. And the Warriors, on top of that, have 2 roster spots still open, and they can sign players to finish out the year. They don't have to go through this creative craziness of 10-day deals in and out, going higher and lower than the 14-player mark on the roster, because every NBA team can dip below the 14-player minimum up to 28 days. There's so much nuance to the CBA. My point is, Jimmy Butler did a huge favor for the Golden State Warriors. They currently have 2 roster spaces open. I'm guessing Kevin Knox is one player we're going to see promoted. He was not eligible for a 2-way deal. So now that they can offer him a guaranteed contract, we will probably see at least a 10-day deal offered to him initially just to see how he fits. But more importantly, perhaps, maybe not, is the buyout market. There is a handful of players out there, Sophia, and the buyout market is one of the trickiest ones to cover just because the only people who really know who's going to be available are NBA front offices, a handful of GMs, even a smaller amount of agents who are notified through GMs that their clients likely going to be released. Point is, the buyout market is very difficult to track and predict, but there are a few names out there that are interesting. And I'd love to get your take on this. And the buyout market thing, we'll just keep bringing this up every episode. It doesn't seem like there's much of a point to dedicate just one episode to it because it's fluid, because it's constantly changing with new names being added, new players getting signed. Ben Simmons already signed by the LA Clippers as one of the first big buyout market players to drop. Here are some of the names, and let me know what you think about it. And this goes to the audience as well. The name to me that's most intriguing, the name that I would probably be most excited for, is Bruce Brown. If he's bought out, what are your thoughts on Bruce Brown to the Warriors?
That would definitely give another ball handler, which, while I hate to say it, it's kind of, unrealistic to think that the roster that we're seeing now is always going to remain healthy throughout the course of the season. And if you don't want to risk losing some of those games when players do start to go down, specifically like in the backcourt, I think that could be a smart get.
Agreed. And again, Bruce Brown has played for championship teams. He's been that pivotal role player off the bench, whether it was with the Denver Nuggets. Was he also with the Lakers? I feel like there was one other team that he was a part of. Maybe it was just the Nuggets. But anyways, I would be ecstatic because Bruce Brown to me would represent the 5th player for the closing lineup, like as opposed to what the Warriors have now, where it's fluid. I feel like it depends on what the matchups are. Like the Warriors, it's safe to say their 4 best players are Steph, Dre, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, right? And then the 5th one could be by committee, depending on who you're playing and maybe who has the hottest hand, maybe what the best fit is. If you add Bruce Brown, that debate is done. And he is your 5th guy closing games. That's one of the many reasons why he's most intriguing, at least to me. This is all very subjective, clearly. Another name who's out there, Larry Nance Jr. Your thoughts?
That's another kind of bigger, which I'm all for the Warriors adding as much length in the interior as possible. And he's a little more athletic and paint focused as opposed to a Quinton Post, but he could potentially be another solid pickup for the Warriors. Agreed.
Seth Curry, if he gets bought out. A lot of these are ifs as well because they're not bought out yet. Who knows if they will? Seth, for whatever reason, has acted like someone who doesn't want to play with his big brother. They played once together many years ago. I would love it. He would give the Warriors another shooting option. Maybe he wins a ring with his big brother so they can celebrate together. Siblings don't always work out in terms of playing together. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as a sibling that also played with my older sister a lot of the time, I always enjoyed playing it, but we weren't the same position. So that's kind of another thing because Steph and Seth, they have similar games. They're playing the same position. I could see where there would be some conflict, but it could also potentially be just kind of a a Thanasis Antetokounmpo situation also, where really good locker room guy and just there to always, uplift Steph when you need him to be uplifted.
Absolutely. Another name who may or may not be available, Bogdan Bogdanovic. I hope I pronounced his first name correctly, but he played for the Pistons for a number of years. I think he's currently with the Brooklyn Nets. Fantastic 3-point shooter. Gives you some size. He's like, 6'6", 6'7". Defensively might be a bit of a liability, but the 3-point shooting would undoubtedly be elite. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do, like you mentioned, I get a little worried on defense, but to have another 3-point threat, I mean, because right now the majority of, or when you think of knockdown shooters on the Warriors, it's pretty much Steph Curry and Buddy Hield. Maybe Quinton Post will start to get into that conversation a little bit. I don't know. But to have someone stretch the floor, those could potentially be something, but I don't know if it's worth messing up if this roster as it is and the playing style. Sometimes when things are going really good and people or coaches and front office, they look on like, oh, well, what if we want to add this? That's when that inconsistency and that change can sometimes affect the product on the court.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. And again, if we hear anything that's substantive, we'll clearly bring this up on the show. But the buyout market again is tricky. I've never seen reports that accurately list who's actually going to be available. Usually, if a player goes on the buyout market, they're snapped up immediately. So another name, thank you, Nakajam90, Nakagain, if I pronounced that correctly. Mo Bamba, who's currently available now. Larry Krueger was on the show last week, voicing support for Mo Bamba on the Warriors. Your thoughts, Sophia?
That would be another, big center. And it's one of those things where you can definitely tell Steve Kerr likes those high IQ players, and he likes a very specific archetype of a player that fits into his systems. Mo Bamba isn't someone I'm necessarily sold on. I haven't watched enough of his game, but just to have that rim protector, I think, and especially with his youth, that's something that could be an upside.
And if there's any other names, drop them in the chat. I think I covered everyone that I'm aware of who may or may not be available. Again, very difficult a part of the NBA to prognosticate, to provide analysis for, just because you don't know who's actually going to be available. You don't know if they're going to clear waivers. I am very intrigued about Kevin Knox, though, and I do hope he gets called up soon, so we can see how he fits on the Golden State Warriors. Rico Lyles in the chat, thank you for the love. I'm reading all of your positivity. It is awesome. Simon too brings up Bismack Biyombo. I think he's too old at this point. He's too washed. Someone mentioned last show Dwight Howard. I don't know if he's maxed out a little bit. His name is intriguing in the sense that 5 years ago, and again, it was 5 years ago, so that's worth noting, he did play fantastic defense on Nikola Jokic, which helped lead the Lakers to a championship. Could he still do that now? I don't know. But yeah, so that's everyone. Is there anyone else that you could think of, or did we exhaust everyone? Okay. All right, let's go through the scoreboard as we wrap it up. All I can say on top of everything else is it feels damn good to be covering a Warriors team that once again represents greatness. It's been a little while. So the Jimmy Butler experience, I'm a huge fan of. Sign me up for that. Let's get some tunes here as we go through the scores in the NBA. It's turned out for me, Sophia, I don't know about you, but the scoreboard segment at the end of every show, I revel in now just because it gives me a chance. And I don't know if the audience feels the same way. I hope you do, but it gives all of us an opportunity to see what else is going on in the NBA. So we're not missing out. And we can also bring up, how each of these games affects the Warriors, where the teams are in the standings. So we got the tunes playing, and we're going to have some scores here. All right. You good, Sophia? Before we get started, any thoughts?
Yeah,
are you ready?
good.
All right. Big score here. Big scoring output from the Denver Nuggets tonight. They hosted the Portland Trailblazers, who have been red hot, by the way. I don't know if you've been paying attention to Portland, but Portland got cooled down tonight by Denver. 146-117 the final. The Denver Nuggets improving to 35-19. Portland dropping to 23-31. Sophia, what are your thoughts on the Nuggets moving up to third in the West? Like all the concerns about them early in the season are just went poof, like bye-bye. I don't know if health is the reason for that. I don't know if Russell Westbrook really gives them that much off the bench, but what are you seeing, if anything, from the Nuggets that has changed from the early season struggles to them now being a top 3 team in the Western Conference?
Yeah, they definitely kind of snuck up a little bit in the standings, but when Nikola Jokic is having almost a triple-double, if not a triple-double, every single night, and just sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get someone adjusted like a Westbrook into the team. So that could potentially be what we're seeing. And again, like Leo is saying, Jamal Murray, someone where he's another player that when he gets going, very hard to stop.
Yeah, Jamal Murray, whether who knows why. I mean, it could have been injuries, it could have just been a funk, but he started off the season slow, and that is not the case now. So Denver again victorious tonight over the Portland Trailblazers in Denver. The Sacramento Kings. Did your dad call this game?
He did, yeah.
So the Kings were in Dallas. This is Golden State's next opponent. We'll do a brief preview of that before we go. But Sacramento holding on tonight. 129-128 winners in Dallas, a final in overtime. So a high-scoring affair there. The Sacramento and this game very pertinent to the Warriors because both the Kings and the Mavericks are hovering right where Golden State is in the standings, fighting for a play-in berth, fighting for a playoff berth. The Dallas Mavericks improving to 28-26 on the year. I'm sorry, dropping to 28-26. The Sacramento Kings improving to 27-26. How do you feel about Stack and the Mavericks on that front? Let's start with Sacramento first. There are going to be certain teams that don't make the postseason, and it's going to be like their fan bases, the organizations. They're not going to be happy about that because they had higher expectations. Both of these teams are case in point. Dallas just pulled off that massive trade, a very foolish trade in my opinion. And so if they don't make the playoffs, that is going to be just a complete disappointment. But the same, I think, goes for Sacramento as well. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, with this game particularly, DeMar DeRozan, he finished with 42 points. My dad's actually texting me as we're covering the segment right now. He's watching.
Love it.
But he says that DeMar was really clutch in overtime. So when you have players like that, and Sabonis, he had 16 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists. I mean, the Kings, I would honestly be surprised if the Kings did not make the playoffs this year. There's just so many teams right now in the West fighting for that positioning.
It is crazy. And we're going to talk about the standings in just a minute, but that was a game that does matter for the Warriors. This one, not so much. The OKC Thunder crushing New Orleans 137-101. The Thunder improving to 43-9. The Pelicans dropping to 13-41. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your current favorite for MVP, 31 points and 3 steals in the win. Trey Murphy III, 23 points, 7 rebounds in the loss for the New Orleans Pelicans. I was a little surprised, Sophia, that Zion Williamson was not traded. Also surprised that the Pelicans were not active in the trade market this year. You would think that would be one team that would shake things up a little bit, given how disastrous their season has gone. Were you surprised by that? Do you see a bigger play here for the New Orleans Pelicans in terms of a grand plan, a scheme for their future? It's perplexing to me. Any thoughts from your perspective?
Well, the Pelicans did trade Brandon Ingram, which
You're right. I'm sorry.
That was kind of, I guess, their version of a shakeup, which he was the player that was kind of producing the most for the team at that time. I think the Pelicans are really just banking on building around Zion, which, I mean, right now it's a little unsuccessful. So I think that could potentially be a team to monitor in the offseason.
The Brandon Ingram trade was weird. Was that just a salary dump for New Orleans? Like, did they even get anything worthy back in that trade? Like, I spaced on that deal entirely. My bad. Apologies. Do you know if they got anything good back? Was that just an opportunity for them to save money? Like, what was the logic there?
I know they traded or they dealt with the Raptors. I genuinely can't remember who they got back though. I want to say it was maybe like 2 players and some picks. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah,
I can't either. And I'm guessing it was just a money dump, but yeah. So anyways, the Thunder meanwhile continue to roll. Elsewhere in the association, the Boston Celtics 103-85 winners tonight over the Miami Heat. We're going to talk about this one in just a minute because I believe this was Andrew Wiggins' debut game for Miami, but the Celtics taking care of business, improving to 38-16 on the year. The Miami Heat dropping to 25-26. Yes, I did see the clip of Andrew Wiggins looking awkward in that ceremony. What is Miami Heat Day? Like, could you enlighten the audience on that? Because they apparently have this annual festival. I don't know if it's like a fan fest type thing. Do you know what it is?
I'm honestly not that familiar. Are you talking about the video where it looked like they were in the club and they had
Yes.
like drums in front of them?
Yes.
Yeah, that don't really seem like Wig's vibe. But yeah, I mean, I can't really recall, at least in my experience, Miami Heat Day being made a big deal.
Okay, there we go. And,
Yeah.
and I ask you because you live in that area.
Yeah, as a Miami resident for the first 18 years of my life.
Yeah, I never heard of that. And apparently it's like an annual event where there's a clip of the team playing drums and playing music. And I don't know if there's like a crowd they're playing to. I have no idea what's going on there, but Andrew Wiggins is up there with his new teammates just looking awkward, looking like that's just not a scene. And anyways, so the Miami Heat get crushed tonight, 103-85. Andrew Wiggins in his debut in a Miami Heat uniform played 30 minutes, 11 points, did grab 5 boards, 5 assists, but maybe the stat that is among many ugly stats that I'm looking at, a minus 22 in net rating. What are your thoughts on the Heat? I do love the Davion Mitchell edition. I'm a little surprised that Davion Mitchell has gone this far in his career without making a profound impact. I thought the Kings misused him. I feel like the Kings could really use him now, but it's too late for them. But Davion Mitchell could be an awesome fit for the Miami Heat. Miami in general, it's just weird there. What are your thoughts?
Well, for that game, it looks like Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez are out. So those are kind of big, especially Tyler Hero, but with Jaquez as well, that's major rotation players. So just as a whole, things are, I mean, it's kind of hard to insert yourself into a new team and a lineup when they're already trying to figure out how to adjust without some players and without Jimmy as well. So that's kind of maybe where we're seeing that. I think that there's going to be a bit of an adjustment period for Wiggins. But I mean, Eric Spoelstra is one of the greatest coaches in my opinion. So he will find a way to figure it out.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's the best coach in the NBA to me, and it's all very subjective, but yeah, he's fantastic. And yeah, so there you go. By the way, Timothy Santiago slandering the Lakers in the chat. We accept any and all Lakers slander, so hate away. It's welcome here. They are the rival, the ultimate rival of the Golden State Warriors. So moving on. Couple more scores here tonight. The Brooklyn Nets winners over the Charlotte Hornets, 97-89. Nick Claxton with 16 points in the win. The Hornets have a guy. Geez, I've never heard of this dude. Sophia, are you familiar with this guy? His name is Moussa Diabate. Is he a rookie? Like, who is this guy? He's the ESPN. I bring him up because ESPN listed him as the top performer for the Hornets tonight. in their loss, scored 21 points, grabbed 10 rebounds. Have never heard of him until now. Have you?
I'm not very familiar.
Musa Diabate, 6'9", 210 pounds, was a 2022 round 2 pick of the Clippers, is now with the Hornets and had himself a game tonight in the loss. So there you go. Couple more games, 3 more, 4 more. I apologize. We're getting there. We're almost done. Thank you for your patience, Sophia, and the audience. The San Antonio Spurs, 131-121 winners tonight over the Washington Wizards. Victor Wembanyama, 31 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks in the win. Vucevic for the Wizard. That's another guy I have to look up now because I don't think I've ever heard of him. Who's this dude? Vucevic? Tristan Vucevic. Tristan Vukovic. Are you familiar with him, Sophia?
No.
Neither am I. It's okay. Neither am I. Well, anyways, he's listed, at least by ESPN, as the top performer for the Wizards. Tristan Vukovic played 20 minutes in this game, had 18 points, 6 rebounds. That's what happens when you're the Washington Wizards. Jordan Poole, former Warrior, had 16 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds in the loss for the Wizards. The San Antonio Spurs improved to 23-28 with the win. Any comments? Anything? You don't have to. I'm just curious if you wanted to.
Yeah. De'Aaron Fox, 30 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. The Warriors need to be careful because the San Antonio Spurs are a very capable team that could sneak up behind them for the standings. I think that throughout everything that happens with the trade, De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio was actually one of the best moves. And I think he's really fitting in right now.
I do not understand how they even got him for the price that they paid. You're right. It was a massive move. Yeah. Even if they don't make the playoffs this season, they're set up. Good. They're so set up. Yeah.
Yes, extremely.
It is crazy. So, all right, 2 more games and we're out of here. 3 more, I apologize. The Hawks defeated the Orlando Magic tonight. 112-106. Caris LeVert, 18 points, 8 rebounds for his new team. Franz Wagner, 27 points, 37 points, I apologize, 7 rebounds. Maybe it's time for me to get glasses. Jesus. Orlando dropping to 26-29. The Hawks improving to 26-28. Sophia, any thoughts on Orlando reeling? I mean, this was a team that 2 months ago, and I know injuries have really plagued that team, but they went from being a team that people were talking about making real noise in the postseason to currently sitting, 3 games below 500? Like, what? I know injuries is the easy answer, but Paolo Banchero has been back. Franz Wagner has been back, and they're still losing games, in this case, at home to Atlanta. Is there anything going on there that I'm missing at least, or are you as perplexed as I am? Your thoughts?
I mean, it definitely is an interesting storyline because, like you mentioned, just there was a lot of hype surrounding the team, and they got hit with injuries, but now the guys, and they're still dropping some of these games. I couldn't say what it is. I mean, when you have a team that is that young, it's still certain growing pains that need to be worked out. So it could be kind of maybe even a sophomore slump-ish type season for the team.
By the way, Shardoll, if you want to come on the program, you got to do it now. All right, we're finishing up. So if you want a quick moment to jump in here and shout about Jimmy Butler, I posted the link in the chat for you, brother. 2 more games. The Cleveland Cavaliers continuing an incredible season. 128-107 winners tonight at home against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Evan Mobley, I love this guy. 28 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists for a Cleveland team that is just dominating the East. Anthony Edwards in the loss, 44 points and 6 rebounds. Minnesota, I'm positive, did not make a trade that also surprised me a little bit because I feel like that's a team that could use a move or two. Did that surprise you as well? I mean, it's weird to me that Minnesota has plummeted this far. I know Karl Anthony Towns got traded, and his impact clearly was undervalued last year, given the fact that Minnesota just traded him away. Is that the sole reason there? You think that Minnesota has taken the step back from a team that nearly went to the NBA Finals? Is there something more to it? Any thoughts, Sophia?
Well, Anthony Edwards has actually been really outspoken of the fact that he gets double teamed and double coverage more than he's ever had in his life. And I don't remember the specific statistic, but I think he's one of the players that's seeing that the most in the entire NBA. So not really having Karl Anthony Towns, all the attention is really on Anthony Edwards, and that double team, clearly it didn't really impact him much tonight, but throughout the course of the season, that's something that he's said that he's had to deal with. I actually think that when my dad called the Timberwolves game the other night, he mentioned that Anthony Edwards even had to reach out through his networks to Michael Jordan to ask for advice on how to deal with some of that coverage and double teams. So he's experiencing a lot for them and for the Timberwolves right now.
Yeah, agree. That's I mean, I feel like if anyone understands what he's going through right now, it's Stephen Curry, who similarly did not have help, and it makes life very difficult. Anthony Edwards is younger, he's bigger, so he can probably find it a little easier to put up numbers without a secondary superstar, but it's not easy to win when you don't get help. So great call on that. Great call from your dad as well. Shardoll, real quickly, the floor is yours. Glad you made it tonight. How are you doing, kid?
Hey, Cy. Hey, Sophia.
Hello.
This was a statement win for the Warriors. They get the 125-111 win over the Bucks. Steph Curry and Butler, again, phenomenal. They combined for 58 points. I mean, those they should be part of the starting lineup from moving on now. They should be part of this lineup because those two players are phenomenal. They work so well together. They feed off each other, and I really like that we got Butler in the trade. Sai, but what were your thoughts on the win? Like, how excited were you when they got this win? They've won 2 in a row. They have to keep this up. They have to win more games. They have to keep this up if they want to make it to the playoffs. They have to keep this up. They have to keep what they're doing and if they want to be successful, they have to keep grinding and keep getting more wins throughout the season.
Agreed. I hold, but so Shardoll, to answer your question, I'm giddy right now. I don't know how else to spin it. My team has a superstar playing alongside Steph, and that superstar in Jimmy Butler is someone I love, man. He's someone that I've always enjoyed watching in general, and the fact that he's on my team now is huge.
Sophia, what were your thoughts on the win?
Yeah, I feel like whenever I come for Monday post-game shows, I actually have a bad record. I've done a lot more losses than wins. So I was just glad to see the Warriors win and come on to the post-game show and actually talk about a win, especially with Jimmy Butler, who is a player that I have, for the longest, I've been a Jimmy Butler fan. So seeing him on the Warriors is still surreal looking at him in the jersey, but I think it's a really good fit.
So Shardoll, how do you feel about it?
Sai, I'm really excited. Like this is a really great win over the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks are such a great team. They have so many great players on the Milwaukee Bucks. They got Giannis. And
not tonight. Shardoll, would the Warriors have won this game tonight if Giannis was playing?
I mean, they would have if Giannis was on the floor. I bet the Bucks would have won this game if Giannis was on the floor.
I agree. Sophia, what do you think? If Giannis played, I feel like it would have been a different game altogether, different strategy. I don't know if Draymond's your starting 5 if Giannis was playing, but I think they could have still pulled it off. What do you think, Sophia?
Yeah, that's a really difficult one. I think they still could have pulled it off, like you said, because in the same way that Damian Lillard had 38 points tonight, and he had a very strong performance. He's probably not having that with Giannis on the floor. Or it's kind of, something's got to give. So I think that's why the Warriors still could have had a shot. It just would have been interesting.
It would have, but I agree with Simon too in the chat, who says Jimmy could have handled Giannis. Handle is a strong word, but I do feel like they would have, and Jimmy included, the team would have made life just difficult enough. They've proven before they could beat Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, even at the peak of their power. So I'm confident they could have still taken care of business, but it would have been a different game, different approach, different strategy, different lineups. I think the Warriors still could have won. Gary Garcia in the chat, by the way. Shardoll's our last caller for the night. I'm sorry, brother.
So what are your tips if the Warriors want to come in and win their next game? And I don't know who that potentially will be. I think I'll have to look at the schedule and find out who that opponent will be. But if the Warriors want to win against Dallas, what are some tips that you would want to recommend to the Warriors if they want to come and win again, get a win against Dallas?
That's a good point. Sophia, I'll start with you. Let's preview Warriors and Mavericks next. Anthony Davis is out. Derek Lively is out. Something tells me Kyrie Irving is going to ask out soon because he did not sign up for the Mavericks experience without Luka Doncic. Klay Thompson did not sign up for the Mavericks experience without Luka Doncic. Those players cannot be happy in that situation. I feel like the Warriors are picking the perfect time to play the Dallas Mavericks. Chances are we'll see Quinton Post in the starting lineup. Dallas is still a big team, even with AD and Lively out with injury. Gafford and PJ Washington still present a formidable front court, so I could see Quinton Post, even Guy Santos getting some minutes. Sophia, what is your early prediction or preview rather for the Warriors Mavericks Wednesday night?
Yeah, like you said, I think the Warriors are catching the Mavericks at unfortunately for the Mavericks good time with the big front court or the main front court players being out. That plays into kind of the smaller, fast-paced way that the Warriors like to play. So I think that they can continue this momentum and keep it rolling against the Mavericks. It's just I'd like to see Jimmy really have kind of a really strong offensive game from a field goal percentage standpoint. He's been getting to the free throw line at a great rate, but just kind of start dominating with his shot.
Shardoll, what do you think is going to happen?
I think we're gonna get a win against the Mavericks. I mean, anytime Clay's on the floor, it's emotional because Clay brought so many stuff to the Bay. Like all the championships he brought to us were like very remarkable. And seeing him in a Mavericks uniform is hard to like get used to. Always as a Warriors fan, seeing him in a different player's uniform is not easy. But Sai, what were your thoughts? Like when you saw Clay in a Mavs uniform, what were your thoughts? Like were you like was it like did you expected that he would go to the Mavericks and get traded there?
I had no expectations in that scenario. Shardoll, let's do this. We're doing the NBA scoreboard. We only have one more game. Let's talk about that real fast because it's one hell of a game, and we'll wrap it up there. There's still a quarter to play, but it was Luka Doncic's debut tonight for the LA Lakers. 3/4 of player in the books. The Lakers are hosting the Utah Jazz, and they lead 100-75. Luka Doncic in his debut through 3/4, he's played 24 minutes. He scored 14 points, 4 rebounds. No, I'm sorry. 14 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, 1 of 7 shooting from 3. So the outside shot is not there. Sophia, your reaction to that. Or Shardoll, I guess you're first. Go ahead.
Sophia, so the Utah Jazz, hands down, one of the worst teams in the NBA right now. They're tanking right now. They suck. They're trying to get Cooper Flag in the NBA draft. All the Utah Jazz fans are really looking forward to getting Cooper Flag from Duke. That's going to be an amazing signing. I think they're going to transform the Utah Jazz organization. into a powerhouse if they get Cooper Flag, because Cooper Flag's amazing on Duke. And Jazz fans are really excited to get Flag. I mean, they're really on the Flag train to get Cooper Flag in the NBA draft. I mean, what are your thoughts if the Jazz potentially get Cooper Flag and sign him to the Utah Jazz roster?
I think that's probably what they're hoping for. I mean, some of the play that the Utah Jazz have been exhibiting and their lack of offseason moves kind of maybe gives you an inkling on what was going on in the front office. But they just got Filipowski from Duke last year, so they're getting Cooper. They could potentially get Cooper Flag again. So 2 Duke draft picks back to back. So that's, potentially a little trend that I'm sure they would love to have.
Shardoll,
Sai,
go ahead.
what are your thoughts if the Jazz get Cooper Flag? I have Sophia's take on this. Let me get your take on it.
I think Cooper Flag's going to be one of the next faces of the NBA. So if Utah gets him, congratulations. I also feel like out of the 4 professional sports leagues, if any of them have a hint of professional wrestling influencing the big picture, it's the NBA. What I mean by that is Luka Doncic to the Lakers. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but that is a fishy move and then some. It helped the league tremendously. I bring that up because when it comes to Cooper Flag, something tells me Utah will not be the team that wins his services. But that's just me. Call me a skeptic or a cynic. Maybe that would be the better word. I don't think so. But with that said, Cooper Flag will be a superstar in the NBA. The kid can play. Shardoll, what do you think?
I think the Utah Jazz fans are really anticipating on getting Cooper Flag. I can clearly see where they're coming from. They want to get Cooper Flag really badly. They want to see him signed on the roster. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I hope they get him because they're really wanting to get him so badly. I have many of my friends who are fans of the Utah Jazz. They're fans of the team. And they're saying that they really want to get Flag. Like, they really want to get this player. They really want to get him.
Shardoll, I really want you, man.
And if they don't get him...
Forget Cooper Flag. I want Shardoll. I want you sitting here next to me. I want a full setup. What do you think, Shardoll? Forget Cooper Flag. It's all about you.
Sai, can I be your co-host on Golden Days?
Let's do it. So you already are, man. You're here every night.
No, can I come? Can I come every day and be your co-host on the platform, and people can call in, and it'll be you, Sophia, and I on the panel.
Sure.
Can I do that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Then thank you.
Sai, you're such a great guy.
So are you, brother.
You're a very hardworking man on YouTube.
That's true.
And you grind and make all this content.
You have to grind to be successful. There's no doubt about that. I'm guessing you grind too, right? You work hard.
I grind too, man. But I'm stuck at 325 subs. I'm desperate. I need more subscribers. I'm trying to get to 400.
Desperation will never lead you anywhere. So pursue greatness, but don't be desperate doing it. Okay.
Sai, thanks for making me the last call.
Thank you,
me the last caller.
Of course, dude. Thank you for what you bring to the table, man.
I should be an NBA analyst. I mentioned Cooper Flag.
Yes.
I should be an NBA analyst.
Correct.
Because I just mentioned Cooper Flag.
See.
People think I should work for Inside the NBA with Kenny, Shaq, and Chuck and Ernie.
Agreed.
I'll make a great addition to the Inside the NBA crew?
Of course.
After every game?
You just have to kiss Charles's head.
Sai, I like your humor.
We got to get out of here. Shardoll,
you bring the humor to the show. My final thoughts. Okay? My final thoughts before I end the show. Sai, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. I love all your content and videos. You keep slaying and grinding and making all this content. I really appreciate it. I really love coming on the show. And guys, make sure to click the like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring that notification bell so you'll be updated next time Sai posts another video on Golden Days in reference to the Matthew McConaughey movie Dazed and Confused, the stoner movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. I could watch that movie over 20 times over and over again and I wouldn't get tired of it. And I really like coming. I really appreciate that you made me the last caller, and I'll join you on Wednesday, and hopefully we can the Warriors can get another win, and we can make 3-0.
I'll see you Wednesday night, correct?
I'll see you Wednesday night, and and thanks for making me your co-host, because I really appreciate everything you do, brother, and I hope you can have more callers on here.
I hope to see you Wednesday night. That's all I
And
care
I'll see you
about.
Wednesday night, and I'll
All right.
see all the other people on here.
Sounds good, Shardoll.
I'll see
You're
you
a legend.
later. Bye, Sai. Bye, Sophia.
Yeah.
And I'm planning to go to more San Jose State men's and women's basketball games, because I haven't been to any games since I was a student on campus.
Okay. When did you graduate from San Jose State?
It was like around 2023. It was last year.
Okay. Sophia, that's when you graduated too, right?
Yeah, I was 2024 spring.
So I haven't gone to any San Jose State men's and women's basketball games, because I missed my stomping grounds that I used to be when I was there on campus.
Okay. Well, we'll see you Wednesday, okay?
And I'll see you on Wednesday, and let's hope I love everything you do on the platform, and hopefully the Warriors can come out with another statement win, and I would love it to be a I would love for it to be a blowout.
I would love that too. I
Let's
hope
blow
every
out
game
the other
is a blowout.
team. Let's blow them
Agreed.
out of the water.
Okay. Sure, I'll see you Wednesday, okay?
The next, who's the next? Are they playing Dallas?
With Dallas Wednesday, Houston Thursday, yes.
I'm gonna say Dallas Golden State Warriors win 165 to 105.
Woo!
Stephen
Let's
Curry and Jimmy Butler are gonna combine for 75 points.
I love it. Sure, I'll see you Wednesday night, okay?
I'll see you Wednesday night, Sai. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. Shardoll. There is no one else like him.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no one else. It's one of a kind. I love that.
Everyone is unique in their own ways.
Absolutely. The greatness that is Shardoll. Sophia, anything you'd like to promote before we call it a night?
Oh, geez. Sorry. Not really. I mean, it was a good win. Hopefully the Warriors can get another one against the Mavs.
Absolutely. Is
Be awesome.
any new news in the WNBA before we go, or are we in the downtime right now?
The Golden State Valkyries recently signed Tiffany Hayes. She is currently playing in Unrivaled, and she was 6th Woman of the Year last year with the Las Vegas Aces. So a good veteran coming onto the Valkyries. And
that's
she was signed as a free agent, so they've been hunting a lot and they got one. So
you and I, just to let people know, when the WNBA season starts, we're hosting post-game shows at Chase Center. So stay tuned for that. I'm pumped. This is so new for me, the WNBA, but I'm all in. The product's entertaining. It's only going up, or this way. It's only doing this, and I'm ecstatic. It's a fun time. The Unrivaled thing, was that a success?
Yeah, it's still going on. I don't know if it's this week. I think it is, but they're actually having a one-on-one tournament.
That's what the NBA All-Star Game needs. I've been wanting that for years. They need a one-on-one tournament. I would love to see I don't know, LeBron take on Durant. Sign me up for that. Who wouldn't want to see that? So the or Unrivaled is doing that, a one-on-one tournament.
Yes, Unrivaled is doing a one-on-one tournament, so that should be extremely competitive to watch. I'm really pumped for that.
Beautiful. So am I. And again, every Monday you're here. We're talking Warriors. We're talking Valkyries. We're talking WNBA. We're talking Shardoll. It is a good time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This brand of Warriors basketball, we've been waiting for this for a long-ass time. It's here. The Jimmy Butler experience is beautiful. So let's just keep it going. The Warriors and Mavericks Wednesday at the latest. We'll be back Wednesday morning, as I do each week with Damon Bruce. And then Wednesday night, we'll do Warriors Mavericks post game. We got Warriors Rockets post game Thursday. And then we got the All-Star break. So that's the calendar for the upcoming week. And again, every Monday, Sophia Jones joins us here for V For Valkyrie, either 3 p.m. Pacific time or immediately following a game like tonight, a game that the Warriors won. Final score 125-111 over the Milwaukee Bucks. And we look at the standings now, see if anything's changed there in the dogfight that has been the Western Conference. Whoops, here, I want to share my screen so everyone can see the standings. Hang on. There we go. Okay. And just to see where the Warriors are standing now. Here we go. So the Warrior, oh, look at that. We call that progress, folks. The Golden State Warriors, if the season ended today, would be in the play-in. 27-26 is their record. They now have a half-game lead over the Phoenix Suns, who have dropped to 11. They have a 3-game lead over the Spurs, a team you and I both agree is someone to keep an eye out for because that De'Aaron Fox trade was incredible. The Warriors are tied with the Sacramento Kings. In terms of record, the Kings own the tiebreaker because of the head-to-head matchup. So Sac and the Warriors are both 27-26, unofficially tied for 9th in the Western Conference standings. The Dallas Mavericks are just a half game ahead of both those teams at 28-26. The Minnesota Timberwolves are currently 7th. They sit 2.5 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors, 2 in the loss column. And the LA Clippers are the team that the Warriors are really pursuing because the Clippers are currently 6th in the Western Conference, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. LA is 29-23. They sit 2.5 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors, and then the Lakers are at the 5 spot. The 5 spot's looking like it's going to be a hard one to catch, but 6 is very attainable. Sophia, any final thoughts with the standings?
Yeah, still a lot of games left to play. The Warriors are only 2.5 games behind that 6th seed spot, so it's going to take some work, but if you take it game by game and just stack up the wins instead of looking at the end result of what's going to happen in April, I think this team could do some damage in the West.
I totally agree. I'm so excited. I cannot put into words how elated I am. Well, final question, Sophia, because I'm curious to know what your answer is. Who does not make it here? This screen, if you could see it, shows 12 teams. The 1 through 5, I think, are safe. And the 1 through 5 is OKC, Memphis, Denver, Houston, the Lakers. Like those 5 right now seem to be comfortable in terms of securing a playoff spot. 6 and down, wide open right now. Clippers, T-Wolves, Mavericks, Kings, Warriors, Suns, Spurs. That's 7 teams for 5 spots, including the play-in. Who does not make it, Sophia? Do you want me to go first, or are you comfortable answering that?
I can go. So I think if we're talking for the play-in, I don't think the Spurs, because while the state of the team right now is very solid, I think they might have dug themselves into a little bit too much of a hole at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And I could see Phoenix staying out as well. I know that seems lazy, just choosing the 2 teams already out of it, but Phoenix has kind of shown right this season that they're unreliable, and they didn't make any moves in the trade deadline, so they're the same team. That would probably be the next team that I would say is on the chopping block.
Okay. Here's my prediction right now. The Warriors will finish 6 or higher. I'm confident in that prediction. I think the Clippers will not be a playoff team. They will be a play-in team, but I don't think the Clippers will finish top 6. They just don't have enough talent. That's just my opinion on it. I think Minnesota will get in as a play-in and then maybe a playoff. Phoenix has too much talent to rule them out. I don't know if you're going to like hearing this. My apologies to your dad, but I don't think the Kings are getting in. I just don't. I don't think they have the depth. 1 through 5 is solid. the moment you get to that bench, it's a huge eek, like question mark, shrug of the shoulders. The Sacramento Kings are relying on a roster that if you take Domantas Sabonis away, they're the Bulls of 3 years ago. That's not going to work. That's not going to lead to anything. So, again, my apologies to the Kings fan base. I don't think Sacramento's getting in. And then I think, as weird as this may sound, I think Dallas will be the other team that's out. It's simply because they made this huge trade for Anthony Davis, who's out for a month, maybe more. A lot can happen in a month. And I just the Mavericks don't make sense to me as currently constructed. Like Kyrie Irving is a fantastic point guard, but he's a liability defensively, and he can't play 48 minutes. So when he's sitting on a bench for 18 to 20 minutes a game, probably even more, around 18, 16 minutes, whatever it is, who else is facilitating that offense? They've got issues. I think the Mavericks have serious issues, and the Kings, I just don't think will cut it. But we'll find out. Should be interesting and should be intriguing. What do you think about what I just said, Sophia? Am I crazy? What are your thoughts?
You're not crazy. Because I agree with Dallas. I mean, I could see them losing a lot of games with AD being out right now, and Derek Lively, he's hurt. We don't know how much he's gonna miss. I could see Dallas falling out. Sacramento, something about that Sacramento team just gives me the vibe that they just will fight.
Okay.
And I know that's I know when you take fight versus talent, so like the Kings versus the Suns, maybe there's a lot up in the air, but the Kings have put so much on the line that I would be really surprised if it didn't pay off.
I will say this. The Kings part of not just Kings, all of this, none of it is a strong prediction on my part. I am not sitting here emphatically saying the Kings are out. You first of all, monitor that team way more closely than I do. So you would know better than me in terms of the fight, the hunger, whatever is motivating them. And I also think they have a lot of talent. It's just that talent does drop off when you get to like 6 and down. We'll see, but I am confident, very confident, that the Warriors are getting in as a 6, maybe even a 5 seed. I'm feeling really good about that now. So take that for what it's worth, and we'll see what happens at the bottom. But it should be interesting. The West is deep. I mean, you're 12 teams deep for 10 spots. So we shall see what happens. Sophia, great show. Bravo. You killed it tonight. I'm not saying that just to be nice. You really nailed it. Bravo. You always do. But I mean, I tell your dad this, you literally every show you're getting better. So I have no idea what the finished product will be. I'm excited to see what that is. Thank you as always for your contribution, Sophia. You're fantastic. Thank you to the audience for being incredible. Thank all of you. This does not exist without you. Folks, gentlemen, if you're losing your hair, give Dr. Tom Rosanelli a call. We want to keep them around as a sponsor long-term. So folks, even if you just want to help us out, give the good doctor a call. Just him, I'm fully aware most people are not using phones anymore. So that could be the simple reason why he may or may not be getting the calls that he wants to get. I have no idea if he's happy in that front, but give him a call. Help us out if you don't mind. 415-931-9881. Again, 415-931-9881. At a bare minimum, gentlemen, if it's fallen out, give him a call. Just ask him what he could do for you. Mention Rick Barry's name. You get a $500 discount if you decide to go ahead and proceed, or visit rosanelli.com. That's the website. Other than that, I think we are done. This Warriors brand, I'm pumped about. Love Jimmy Butler. Love Stephen Curry. I love this team. We're feeling good. Oh, and Julian Bashir. I don't like highlighting this stuff, but you paid $2, so I gotta put it on blast. That is what I owe to you for supporting our business here, saying my previous show sucks. So there you go. You spent the $2. Bravo for that. Thank you. And thanks to everyone again. Sophia, are we good? Are we done?
We're good.
Finito. All right, we'll be back at this at the absolute latest Wednesday morning. Me and Damon Bruce. Wednesday night, Warriors Mavericks post game. If anything happens between now and then, let's say the Warriors sign someone big in the buyout market, we'll be coming to you live. Otherwise, every Monday, Sophia Jones joins me. We're here almost every day. And go Warriors. That was a hell of a win. Sophia, great job. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.